1977 was a great year for movies to be released. We had timeless classics such as Titanic, Tomorrow Never Dies, Dante's Peak, and a little gem called Starship Troopers. Growing up as a kid, I had maybe watched Starship Troopers once and barely understood a thing that was going on, but what I did understand was watching the military fight and clear out giant-ass bugs, while wearing some really goofy armor. The humor and self-awareness of the movie was one of the more fun aspects that I had when looking back at that, and now that same can be applied here in 2024 with the overall narrative surrounding Helldivers 2. A lot of people ask, what is Helldivers even about? What do you do in the game? Do you just kill bugs all the time? The answer to that question is yes, you kill bugs and sometimes mechs and other enemies, but you do it in the name of democracy and the home planet of Super Earth.
Unless you make the most important decision of your life. Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
Join the Helldivers. Become part of an elite peacekeeping force. See exotic new life forms. And spread managed democracy throughout the galaxy. Become a hero. Become a legend. Become a Helldiver.
The last year leading up to this game's release, I wasn't exactly sold on the premise, and at that time we really hadn't seen much gameplay aside from a few snippets from showcases and the occasional Twitter clip or two. But developer Arrowhead Games Studios, I think, really struck gold here with the launch of this game, and it was a big move on Sony's part to release the game day and date on PC with the console release, which has helped attribute to the game absolutely going fucking bonkers on Steam charts, with over 326,000 concurrent players at the time of this writing. What can also be attributed to this game's success is the price tag that is being sold for. $40 is what this game will run you, and while it does have an in-game cash shop that you can use to deck out your guy, those credits can also be earned through the free requisition pass as well as finding them out on missions. But that $40 price tag makes it a little easier for people to swallow, and at least give it a try with a few buddies. You're bound to have a blast. Whether that's slaying out hordes of enemies as you fight for your life at the extraction point, or laughing your ass off because one of you dropped an airstrike on the entire squad leading to your untimely deaths, or trekking through the jungles of Robot Vietnam as we like to call it. All of what I just described is part of the magic that makes this game work, and while it might not work for everyone, it's sure doing the trick for me.
The DLC is like $15 and it's like an hour and a half. That'll work.
Oh, Jesus,
Oh,
what
shit.
that guy calling?
Airburst. I'm so glad I jumped backwards.
Last reload!
I love you, Yuri. But okay.
Hey, no, I watched it arc literally through a beetle.
I'm pretty sure I just landed on and killed teammate.
Reinforcing!
Will this idiot stop walking over there?
Oh my god, it just arced through all of us. Holy fuck, this is a problem. Do not go near that side of the map.
The concept of Helldivers is something that from the outside looking in might seem a little odd or boring, but it isn't until you've jumped in and experienced the action for yourself that you will say, okay, I get it. When you first load into the game, you're treated to one of the only cutscenes I think that this game has, and it perfectly sets the stage for the world of Helldivers and the role that you play as one of them. The super serious nature of the subject with alien bugs invading the surrounding planets while trying to keep Super Earth and its citizens safe. After you name your ship, you're then able to hop into the full loop of the game, and it's honestly super simple. You just select the map that you're wanting to drop on, and that will usually be comprised of a few mission areas around the surface of the planet, also whether it's nighttime or daytime. From here, you'll drop onto one of the various mission locations in the galaxy, and you'll be given a task like extracting data from a crashed pod, launching an ICBM, or clearing out bug nests in the area. And while yes, that is the general loop you will be doing for a majority of the game, it's how you do those loops that is going to drastically change your experience and your enjoyment of the game in the long run. Something about calling in a precision airstrike and seeing it take out a row of enemies that was charging down at me. Dropping into the battlefield for the first time is something right out of Halo ODST, and if any of you have wondered what it would be like to play as an ODST trooper, the wait is finally over. I'm kidding, but this game seriously makes me want a Halo game in this style while you're playing as different ODST squads in third person fighting off hordes of either Covenant, Flood, or Forerunner enemies. That feeling you get from stepping into the pod and hearing the locking noises to the music that plays as you travel down to the surface to spread managed democracy to a colony of bugs and robots is electric. haven't gotten too much into the end game, I am having a decent amount of time around trying to figure out what weapons are for me and what weapons I'm going to stay away from. Speaking of weapons, when you're firing and shooting your weapons, you reload, you will lose all your ammo that is in that mag. So it was really hard for me to not do that, and it was a big thing for me to get over my lizard brain, as it had been trained to always have a fresh mag, even if that meant after you've only fired one shot. Friendly fire was also something that I was thinking was going to be a huge pain in the ass, but more often than not, it's actually really comical because a lot of the deaths by friendlies have been purely accidental. Or have they?
Orbital strike.
As soon as you land, run my way.
Oh, it's one way to kill it.
It wasn't my best talks, okay?
The feeling that you get in one of the matches of Helldivers can be some of the highest of highs, mixed with some of the most nerve-wracking, pissed-off moments that I've had in recent memories. But it wasn't something that made me rage, quit, or get off the game, because that was sort of the charm of the game itself. If you fuck up, respawn, try again, because Super Earth ain't gonna save itself. There are 3 big ways of progression in this game, and you're gonna have your normal battle pass, which is called requisitions. And what this will allow you to do is purchase items that you might want to unlock permanently with the medals that you've earned from across the map or from the missions that you've completed. Items in this free section range from cosmetics that change the look of your Helldiver, as well as different weapons that you can add to your arsenal. Pretty standard stuff that will take you some time to work your way through. You do also have the option to purchase a paid battle pass that has some pretty sick ass looking armor, as well as some pretty strong weapons that will no doubt give you a nice start. I haven't really messed around too much with that, but that's sort of your progression system there, so it's a nice thing to dig through, and I'm sure it'll take some time to work myself through it. The other side of the progression items that you're going to be spending your credits on are called ship stratagems. These are split off into a couple different categories. You have a section that is fully dedicated to a third weapon slot that you have in this game. It can be filled with an LMG, a rocket launcher, an arc thrower, or a spear, aka a javelin launcher. Those are going to be your big power weapons that'll deal a significant amount of damage, but you will lose them upon death and have to pick them back up or request a new replacement. Next up, you're going to have the orbital cannon options, and these are exclusive to your ship and cannot be used by any members of your squad. And the big daddy of them all, the orbital rail cannon strike. The satisfaction that you get from dropping one of these on your targets is so satisfying, and you'll never forget it. Further down the list, we have the Eagle strike packages, and these are basically space A-10 warthogs, and boy, these are just as mean as the real life counterpart. These also have a bunch of variations that you can choose from, like smoke bombs, napalm, strafing runs, but my personal favorite is just the basic carpet bomb airstrike, because you call that in and it just lays a nice line of explosives, and it's great for taking out bug nests or machine factories as well. And then we have what I would label as the personal defense items. These range anywhere from a personal backpack robot that will attack and fight targets on your own. That is 2 different variations. One has like a laser weapon, and then the other has a assault rifle / machine gun. You also then have your little minigun or mortar launcher. Those are going to be used to mostly just defend or hold down an area. There's certain missions where you are required to defend an area for X amount of time or kill a certain amount of enemies. Just make sure that if you're using the mine launcher or the Tesla tower, that you don't get too close to it. You're also then going to be able to upgrade the cooldowns for a lot of these as well. You can also find these samples around different maps, with different samples being available at higher tiers of difficulty as you go on. And thankfully the samples that you pick up are all shared with the friendlies in your squad. These are going to use, like I said, to decrease the cooldown of some of your stratagems, like reducing the Eagle Strike cooldown by 50%, or you'll have another one that allows more magazines for that third weapon slot. These are all further progression items that can affect your gameplay and how it unfolds over the course of your match. Some of these, like I said, are going to take quite some time to unlock, but in the end, they're sure going to be worth it. The foundation for the player rewards are definitely there at the start, and if they can continue to add new items, weapons, and gear, I think we've got a pretty good loop at obtaining some sweet gear. Alright, this is the technical block. So if you aren't familiar with the channel, I like to do a little section of the review where I talk about my performance when playing the game, as well as my experience technically. I went ahead and I played this game on PC, running an RTX 4080 with an i7-13700, and all the settings turned to the max possible values. And by no means is this game meant to be a graphical showcase or pushing boundaries in new ways of fidelity. But the game itself looks really gorgeous depending on what planet you're on. The variety of some of these planets is actually quite striking, and you'll have one that's entirely ice-covered planet, and then you have one that's straight out of Dune, and then you have one, like I said, the community has been dubbing Robot Vietnam, and if you know, you know. The actual game performance itself has been pretty rock solid for me. I've put in roughly 16 hours so far into the game and have yet to run into any game-breaking bugs.
Oh, okay, I see see what you did there.
There have been a few times where I have experienced some server issues, and that does seem to be on their end, as the game has absolutely blown past even, I think, anyone's wildest expectations, and they've put a cap, actually, of 450,000 players on their servers, because that's as high as they can scale them up at this moment. There also have been some issues with matchmaking as well over the past week and a half, and so there was a patch released on February 14th that does aim to fix a lot of the server and connection issues, and I have tried it out a little bit. It does seem to help it a little bit, but I've had a few instances where a few people have left or gotten kicked right before an extract, and I was like, hey man, that sucks because they lost their reward, but there's nothing I can unfortunately do on my end. So I know that they are hard at work on trying to resolve a lot of these issues and trying to scale up the infrastructure, because like I said, there is no way they could have expected the success that this game would do. I mean, it's sold more copies than Destiny 2's ever had, more copies than Starfield's ever had, concurrent players, by the way. But I would say as far as the first 2 weeks go, I think they could chalk this up to a big success. I would say this is sleeper hit number 2 on the year so far. We had Palworld in January, and it's looking like Helldivers 2 is going to be that big game for the month of February, which was not something I saw coming at all. It's a big testament that 2 of the biggest releases that we've gotten this year have been smaller sized projects that instead of selling at $70, they were sold at $30 and $40 respectively. Shit's getting expensive nowadays, and your average consumer isn't going to have a ton of money to shell out on these bigger game releases, so when asking someone to toss down $40, it's a little bit of an easier ask this go around. Helldivers 2 is a game that I was not sure I was going to like at all, and I think if I was just playing solo, it might be a little different, but this game, with a solid group of friends, or even just one friend, can make it all that much more enjoyable. The humorous yet tense nature of the combat is what keeps me coming back to this game so far, and I'm really having a blast with it. While time will tell if they can keep up the pace with the constant updates and fixes, it's nice to see another success story from a game where we weren't expecting it from. I also hope this signals a change for Sony's release strategy moving forward, as games are getting more and more expensive to make, and with each iteration, and Helldivers launching on PC at the same time as the PS5, I think it's a good sign moving forward for the future and for games in general. If you're thinking about picking up Helldivers, buy it, buy a copy for your friend, drop in and save Super Earth. So if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. And this has been my little short review of Helldivers 2. Thank you for watching.
You will grind our enemies into oblivion. For freedom. For managed democracy. For Super Earth. Join the Helldivers, the galaxy's last line of offense.